Hey everybody, hope you can hear me. I just wanted to do a quick review of this new Eric Clapton record. Meanwhile, several of the songs you will have heard if you listen. Several of these songs have been kicking around YouTube and on the internet and in the media for a couple years anyway, but it's all more recent work. And finally, an official release, which came out. I got the vinyl copy. I just got it in the mail yesterday. One thing I noticed right away, I've got a couple vinyl records, it's puffy. It doesn't lie flat like my old vinyl. I don't know if it's just because it's old, but I feel like the vinyl now, it's made with new machines and kind of factory. It's probably better or something, but it doesn't lie as flat. It's kind of got a puffy. Everything's kind of puffy. You don't get much in there. There's just the record. But you do get all the, one nice thing about vinyl is you get all the credits. You're never going to see that on a CD or, God forbid, an MP3. I got the vinyl, even though, to be honest with you, I don't even have a turntable anymore, but I always stick up for vinyl. It's a pretty good album. You'll hear it's got some of the old stuff he did during lockdown with Van Morrison, Stand and Deliver, The Rebel. You might remember some of the controversy surrounding a few of those. This has got to stop. But a couple takeaways I have on here, it's really beautifully produced. So it is a good album. As far as I'm concerned, Eric Clapton's never done a quote-unquote bad album. He's done albums that are better or worse, or albums maybe that were kind of throwaway. But, he's a great guitar player. So, if he's on an album in any significant way, there's usually something worth hearing. I even like, some of the albums you never hear that much about are like There's One in Every Crowd, No Reason to Cry. Some people might say those aren't great albums. I happen to think there's some good stuff on all those albums. Kind of a big album. It's 14 songs. 30 years ago, if this were an actual vinyl album in the actual days of vinyl records and not sort of a curiosity vinyl record like they make now, but if this were like in the actual days of vinyl, I imagine they might have cut several of these and it maybe would have been in some ways a more coherent album. It's got some well-done stuff on it. And Clapton, his guitar, I've seen him live. He can still play. He is not rusty or diminished in any significant way that I've ever noticed. He plays like an older man instead of like a younger man, but he is not diminished in the sense of his artistry, in my opinion. But on here you don't hear a lot of big blazing solos or... but you do hear, man, just some tasteful guitar. Wow. I mean, you just hear it. Like I was listening to You've Changed, but man, you just listen to it. And the guitar in some ways is just so nice. It's not flashy. You might miss it. But if you listen to that intro guitar solo on that You've Changed, and I'm not going to play any of these for you, I guess, just unfortunately, but it's just really excellent guitar. But it's kind of, I don't want to use the word subtle, but it's just kind of really polished, nice blues guitar playing. And you can just tell, hey, this guy's been playing blues for 70 years, And it's kind of like all these really tasteful little licks just kind of like falling off his fingers. And they're kind of laid back, which to me... when you're 79, being laid back is all right. It probably makes you better. But I think in some ways his artistry is as good as it's ever been. There's artistry in these songs, and he has the artistry of Eric Clapton today at this stage of his life. But this is not in any way like an amateur type production, or we wouldn't want to use the word amateur, but I mean it has true artistry. There's some really nice guitar. There's some great acoustic playing on it. That song about the child, which is Heart of a Child. It's just got such beautiful acoustic guitar lines. And it's really kind of mellow. Like I said, I would imagine if I heard that in the mid 70s, I might have thought it was like I don't want to say dentist office or elevator music, but something kind of like maybe my aunt and uncle would have listened to on a Sunday morning or something. Just kind of real nice FM kind of almost instrumentalized pop rock, very nice guitar playing all the way through this, electric and acoustic. I don't think there are any major solos on here like Let It Rain or Layla, but you do have good guitar playing laced all the way through it. Pompous Fool, that's about Boris Johnson. So you got several of his lockdown era kind of political songs. I'm not too political. I can be kind of political, but I don't know. Heart of a Child. I thought that was written when I first heard it. I think I even have a video. I thought it was about a kid whose parents were drug addicts and robbed banks or something for a living. And you kind of felt sorry for this little kid, kind of like In the Ghetto or something by Mac Davis. But no, it's I think it was about Gaza. So Moon River. Now that's with Jeff Beck. Yeah, that is worth hearing. You've got a Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton collaboration there on Moon River, and I'm pretty sure it's one of the last things Jeff Beck ever played, at least that was released. And it's really nice. Maybe 30 years ago, that might have been considered a little bit schlocky for a guitar hero like Eric Clapton to do. Man alive, there's some nice guitar in there. Jeff Beck and Eric Clapton. And I always think of that's kind of, to me, especially like Jeff Beck would do like Summer Over the Rainbow, Nessun Dorme, all kinds of things like that. And he never was much with his own songs, and he didn't sing much. But Eric Clapton and Jeff Beck do that Moon River. That's definitely worth having. Sam Hall, that's an old pub song. You know what? I thought the arrangement could have been a little more pubby. It kind of sounds good. Sounds kind of like you're in some pub in Ireland or Scotland or some northern part of England or something for a minute there. A lot of these are almost too professional. Sometimes that's one thing I was going to say. This is a very professional album. Sometimes I wish he just let it rip and stop being professional, get the engineers out of the room and just play, maybe have the guitars too loud. The vocal is up way loud in a lot of this, which is good. You can hear it. But I was thinking about a lot of those old Stones albums where they would mix Jagger's voice down, and I think that's a good classic rock technique. You can still hear it. I mean, but it kind of puts the voice in the mix more. And Clapton's voice is way out front. I always think it's better if it sounds like he's kind of screaming over the guitars, you get more of a rock and roll feel to it, at least on some of these. And Always on My Mind is on there, the Willie Nelson song, which Willie Nelson, I always thought Willie Nelson wrote that, but no. But he's on there he sings that with the guy named Bradley Walker, who's a country artist. I wasn't that familiar with him, and he's got multiple sclerosis. So Clapton kind of featured him. That was good. But The Call, You've Changed, Misfortune. But it's a good album. This Has Got to Stop. That was another kind of lockdown song. He's got some of those ones he did with Van Morrison on here, which I like. you know what? My takeaway is it's not a bad album. I mean, it's a good album. It's an Eric Clapton album. It's a bona fide Eric Clapton album. This man is going to be 80 years old, I believe. You know, he has my same birthday. I shouldn't tell you that, but because I shouldn't tell my birthday. But I'm a big Eric Clapton fan. I always kind of thought it was funny that we have the same birthday, March 30th, and he's going to be 80, if I'm not mistaken, this year. And you think about it, you don't nitpick an album by a guy who's got that much history and legacy, and it speaks for itself. I mean, I don't even really know what I want to say other than, you know, there's some 70s albums. My favorite Clapton albums are from the 60s and 70s, but in a way I see the growth and the maturity. I think his artistry in some ways has shown development all the way through till now. You know, and I wouldn't say his guitar playing's that diminished. I would say his artistry is just as high, if not higher, than it's ever been. In fact, if I have one criticism of the album, I wish they'd kind of lose some of the engineers and turn his voice down a little bit and his guitar up a little bit, maybe rock out a little bit more. But in some ways, that maybe I'm wanting it to be another kind of album than it was, and that's not therefore really fair criticism. But definitely a good album, and I just have 100% respect for this man and his guitar playing, as I'm sure just about any one of us would, and it's a good album. I think my favorite track might be Moon River with Jeff Beck, not necessarily because it's the best one on the album, but just the historical significance of that's probably one of the last songs Beck ever played. It's a great song. It shows them just playing nice melodic electric guitar. You know, I always think the early '60s there was a lot of cool electric guitar. Jeff Beck, I really associate with him with like the Ventures, like Apache and stuff like that. And Moon River's kind of like that. It's just a really nice. There's the guitars kind of sailing on that nice melody. And that's the same with Smile. Smile is an old Charlie Chaplin song. Smile though your heart, and he's done that before. That's the kind of thing maybe that I remember. I remember thinking, if he did that in 1975 when I saw him in '78, but I don't think he would have been booed. But if anyone ever would dare to boo Eric Clapton, it might be if he had got up there in 1978 and played Smile though you. I could just hear people go, the drunks in the back going, rock and roll, play some rock and roll, because I remember people at the Clapton concert back then, he was doing Wonderful Tonight, and I remember people going, play some rock and roll. So back then people could have too many drinks and definitely be raucous crowds, maybe more so than today, but that Smile and Moon River, they're kind of, maybe play some rock and roll kind of songs. But then when you get a little older, you realize, hey, these are great songs. And these are two of the great guitar players of modern history. And they're showing us, how you can play these songs on electric guitar and make them just beautiful. The instrumentation is always nice on this album. He's got a lot of guest artists like Van Morrison and this Bradley Walker, some other Judith Hill, Simon Climby, and Daniel Santiago. He co-wrote several of these with that Sam Minotti, who was kind of he did some interviews with him. He was kind of around that lockdown period. But the core of the band is like Nathan East and some of the players you often see. But to me, that's the standout track that really makes it worth having as a keepsake is Moon River, Eric Clapton and Jeff Beck. And all the songs, are just, the guitar playing has such artistry and professionalism. And that's definitely one takeaway I have from this album is the artistry and the professionalism of Eric Clapton today in 2025. And I still think he plays great, but even if you handicap him somewhat for being 80 or 79 instead of being 26 years old, which I don't think you need to do, but let's say you did do that. In some ways, I think his artistry shows evolution and development all throughout his career, including on this. There's just just all these nice little guitar lines going all the way through it. That's one takeaway I would leave you with. There's just all these little guitar lines kind of woven through, and they're all just so nice. And yeah, Eric Clapton. He definitely knows what he's doing. Newsflash, great guitar player. Shocker, I know. But this album is definitely worth getting. Definitely worth checking out. Thanks. God bless.